Hello gorgeous girls! Welcome back to another video. I am nervous because this is the first time I have ever used a camera to film a full YouTube video. Insane, but I'm very excited. I hope that this all turns out well. I hope the production quality turns out well, and I'm ready for this. So I'm also very ready for this topic. This is a topic that hits home for me. It really does on another level, and it's because of who I am as a person, my upbringing, my past, and I know that you can probably relate. If you are a very resilient woman, you are someone who is able to push through challenges and build yourself up as a better person through these challenges, and you have a lot of experience with pain, adversity, trauma in your life. You are a woman with resilience. And the thing that I have realized is that some women think resilience is the strength to push through hard situations, to push through staying in bad environments, when really the wisest women know that resilience is not strength to stay and push through hard situations. Resilience is the strength to know when to leave. God did not design us with resilience to push through pain and suffering. To push through pain and suffering that we are choosing to stay in. God gave us resilience to walk away. God gave us resilience to know when to leave. And this is something that I've had to really process in my life because of my past experiences, and I'll start going into some of that with my past. Well, I grew up with a little sister who was in the hospital a lot, and that was always really scary because we never knew if everything would be okay. She has a very special health condition, and it's something that my whole family has navigated together. And as a little girl, seeing my parents trying to navigate that too, see my parents in fear, was really hard for me. And it also really shaped me as a child because my parents were very loving, but I didn't have the necessary attention, extra care that my little sister needed. And so I was raised to become very independent. My twin sister and I both, luckily I had my twin throughout my whole upbringing, but I was raised to be resilient. I didn't talk to my parents much about my problems or my issues with problems at school or anything personally I was struggling with, because all I thought in my mind was, why would I possibly add on to the problems that they already have, to the severity of my little sister's health that was much greater than any of the problems that I could have, right? At least that's what I thought of it as a kid. And so I was so used to handling everything myself. And then when I got into school, of course, this resilience transferred. I really worked super hard for my grades. I was studying constantly, and it's because I really wanted to push myself. I knew that I wanted to be successful. I knew that I wanted to do the best that I could possibly do in my school, and this translated to my physical fitness. You guys know, if you've been since the beginning, that I started my fitness accounts, my lifting. I started getting into bodybuilding. I remember when I was 16 years old, I was so passionate about fitness, and I would start going to the gym. I would walk to the gym every single day after school. It was luckily only a few blocks away, probably a 10-minute walk. And I would walk there every single day. You know, I was still walking there when it was thunderstorming and raining, because that is how determined I was to change. I was not fully happy with the body that I had, and I think that's a great thing, to want to aspire to change. And I had these insane goals for my fitness and how I wanted to transform my physique and become so strong and just love my body. And now I can sit here today, 6 years later, saying I am so glad I made that decision to start lifting weights. Lifting weights is a core, crucial part of my life. It's part of me because of what it has done for me mentally and physically, and how it has transformed my discipline and my resilience, again, to pushing through that pain. And so I eventually got powerlifting coaches and then bodybuilding coach. I competed in 2 competitions for bodybuilding. I'm not going to compete anymore. It was really just I want to try this and be done. But it taught me a lot, of course. It was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through, was a bodybuilding prep. So yes, and that's part of my past. And so if you relate to this, you will see how your resilience is going to transfer into your personal life. What does this mean? Well, think about your relationships. If you're a woman that's ever been in a toxic relationship, usually the first question you ask yourself looking back is, how the heck did I not leave earlier? Why did I stay as long as I did? And it's not because you were weak. It's because you were extremely resilient and strong. You were just channeling your strength in the wrong area. Because to you, if you're in a toxic place and you're thinking, but I'm strong, I can get through this, you tell yourself reasons to push through, and you use your strength to push through pain, to push through a place that you shouldn't even be in, right? Because it would be better if you left, but you're channeling your strength in the wrong way. Because I had to learn that channeling my resilience did not mean trying to survive through suffering, trying to survive toxic people and toxic environments by staying in them. Strength and resilience is knowing when to leave and using that strength and resilience and just changing a little bit how you're channeling it. Remember that strength and resilience is always going to be in you, especially if you're a resilient woman. But where do you put that strength towards? Because if you're using your strength and your inner resilience to stay in toxic situations that are hurting you, you are not making a wise decision. You're still very strong, you're just using your strength in the wrong way. Now, think about if you channel this strength towards something else. You channel this strength towards saying, I'm not going to allow myself to stay in toxic situations. When I feel something's wrong, I leave. That's also resilience. You know, the whole reason why we stay in toxic situations and environments is because part of us likes that environment. Let's say you're a woman who's been in a toxic relationship. You love this man so much, and he's very kind to you at times, and other times he's very cold, dismissive, and toxic in a relationship. So why don't you leave? Because part of you wants to hold on to that love. Part of you wants to believe that you can make the situation better. That is your resilience trying to come out, trying to hold you there and hold on to this hope. But it's a false hope. This is something called intermittent reinforcement. It is actually the strongest psychological attachment. And this is when someone is both cruel and kind at different times. So they might be really kind at some times and then they're cruel at other times. And why is this the strongest psychological attachment? Because you're more likely to stay. You're more likely to stay with what you want to tolerate, which is the love, the good parts of the relationship, the good parts of this person. And that's the most dangerous situation to be in because you're more likely to stay and tolerate it. So this goes with relationships. If you are a girl who's been in a toxic relationship, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or just a toxic person in general, because part of you really wants to not believe that it's as bad as it is. If you're in a toxic situation, you might not realize exactly in the moment that it's toxic. And we wonder, how come we do not realize that situations are toxic right when we're in them? Why is this? The answer is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the idea that we have two conflicting beliefs at once. We have what's happening in real life. We have the reality of the situation, which is you're being harmed by someone. And then we have your conflicting belief, which is I'm a strong person. I do not stay in harmful situations. But this doesn't make sense because you're literally sitting there staying in a harmful situation. So what happens with cognitive dissonance is you will start to justify the person's bad behavior in order to not face this discomfort you have with your belief, which is I have standards and I don't stay in harmful situations. So what do you say? You say, this person has been through a lot. This person is just really stressed today. Oh, they're just in a bad mood. They have a lot going on in their life. Okay, you're justifying their harmful behavior in order to make yourself feel better about staying, because now it's not on you, so you stay. And then you get in this cycle. That's what cognitive dissonance is. It is literally our mind creating a bunch of lies to us and trying to not look at the truth for what it really is, because the truth is uncomfortable. The truth is so uncomfortable. When we have to look at a situation that we are in that is toxic, with a toxic relationship, a toxic person, when we sit in those situations and we have to really think about what we're putting ourselves through, it is so uncomfortable because part of us inside knows it's wrong. Part of us knows that we are not fully happy, but we still stay because we try to justify reasons to stay. But it's not always that bad, but I can handle it. The good outweighs the bad, things like this. That's why understanding toxicity, understanding what is harming you in the moment is so important. Is so important. And for you to be a woman that is so self-aware of what you are going through is a rare quality. It's called intrapersonal intelligence. This is the intelligence that we actually look within at ourselves. We see how we're being affected emotionally, what our sensitivities are, what our strengths and our weaknesses are. It's literally the ability to analyze yourself. Not a lot of people can do that. That's why interpersonal intelligence is one of the most rare types of intelligence. And if you have it as a woman, you are able to see the bad situations you are in and start to get yourself out of it. And look at me, I have strong interpersonal intelligence. But what the thing is that I have caught myself staying in situations longer than I should have because my cognitive dissonance is strong. And guess what? Anyone's cognitive dissonance, anyone, even the most resilient woman, still are the ones who tolerate pain and suffering and stay the longest in harmful situations than anyone else. I will say it again. Resilient women often stay longer in toxic, harmful environments than anyone else because they are used to that pain and adversity. They are used to being through hard situations. And so they say, well, if I've been through this, and this trauma in the past, this I can definitely endure. I can take this on. I can push through it. And again, that's where the resilience comes back to harm you. You're a strong woman, and this is why we want to learn how to channel this energy. Now, I'll give you an example. So I was in a really bad environment when I was a senior in high school. Yeah, I was a senior in high school. I don't want to get too specific, but I'll just say I was in a bad environment when I was a senior in high school. And I knew part of it was unhealthy. I knew part of it was toxic, but guess what? I didn't leave. I wasn't the one to leave, and I knew that I was going to get out of there in a few months just because I was moving anyways. But you know what actually got me to leave? It wasn't until another man pointed out what was toxic and wrong about the situation, and he literally was the one who saved me from that, who got me out of that. I mean, looking back, this man didn't know me, like we weren't close. I had only seen him maybe a few times in the same environment, but the fact that he helped pull me out of it, even after I got out of it, he was still checking in on me and seeing that everything was okay because of how extreme the situation was. And I give all my gratitude to that man who pulled me out of it. But it's back to this whole idea of, why the heck was I not the one to get myself out of it first? Why did I have to wait for someone else to save me? Why did I have to wait for someone else to pull me out of the situation? Because in that, when you are sitting in a manipulative, toxic environment, your brain will tell you anything to try to believe what is not actually happening. Your brain will try to convince you that everything is fine, everything is smooth sailing, you can handle it, it's not affecting you that much. And when you are in this state where you have to actually think, is this situation really as bad as it is? If you are already thinking that, you are most likely directly already sitting in manipulation, sitting in a bad environment. Because you should never have to convince yourself reasons to stay versus leaving. If you are at the point where you have to convince yourself reasons to stay, you already have to leave. God is already directing you in your intuition to leave. And you have to listen to that. We weren't born to argue with our intuitions. We weren't born to argue with that gut feeling. It's there for a reason. Our intuition is not logic. It's not thing that you can say logically and it always makes sense. It's a feeling. Feelings don't always have to be explained, but they always exist. So when you feel those things, you will know. If you ever had unhealthy female friendships, a toxic relationship, or been in a toxic environment, you know that it's wrong. But part of you still stays. So every time you have to convince yourself to stay in an environment that is unhealthy and toxic for you, ask yourself this. If you saw a little child going through the same pain as you are right now, would you tell them to just be strong and sit there through it and push through it? No, you wouldn't. You would take that little child in your arms, grab them in a hug, and run and get them out of there to safety. Why don't you do the same for yourself? Why don't you have those same standards for yourself that you would with a little child? going to help and protect another child, guess what? That little child still exists in you. We all have that inner child. We grow up, we change, we turn into adults, but we still have that inner child there. And that inner child deserves to be protected. So you protect her. You need to protect her. The person who is in the situation they're willing to tolerate, the situation they're willing to push through, is the one in the most danger because they're staying in it. Remember, the safest person is always the one who's leaving the toxic environment. And guess what? That woman is better off because she's out of there. She's out, she's in her peace, she's finding a new job, a new environment that is good for her, that is nourishment for her. Tolerance is something that resilient women have at their core, is something that they have, and it is their strength. Tolerance is a strong, resilient woman's strength until it comes to the point where she's in a harmful situation and she tries to use that tolerance to stay. The woman who's in that situation who doesn't have the tolerance to stay is the one who's safer because she's out of there. She's gone. She's left a harmful environment, and that has to be you too. So I hope that this is a little bit eye-opening for you. I hope that this helps you to really connect with that resilience in you and try to channel this in a new way. Remember that being someone who is hardworking, who is very resilient, a woman who goes after her goals relentlessly is a beautiful thing. I love these types of women because I resonate with that. And these same types of women are the ones who need to be the most careful about protecting their inner peace, due to the fact that we will try to push through anything that we can, even when it comes to our own self-detriment. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that you can start to look at your inner strengths. Okay, I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully with this camera.